In the 2025.07 release of DDM, we've made significant improvements to the CAD Parameter Mapping tool. The CAD Parameter Mapping tool allows you to map properties from DDM to the CAD environment and from the CAD environment to DDM. And the new tool can be found in CAD and Neutral Files, CAD Parameter Mapping. The main purpose of this is to enable you to add required information to your drawings with ease. Typical examples include part number, description, and change note details. This also gives you the ability to see properties that you need from DDM without the need to open the CAD environment or the drawing. This also gives you the ability to see properties from the CAD environment in DDM without the need to open the CAD environment itself or the drawing. It also means that properties that are mapped from DDM to the CAD environment can be modified by users with the appropriate permission without the need for the CAD software. For example, if you include purchasing information such as supplier details or part numbers on your drawings, your purchasing department could add that information through DDM. Then on load of the drawing and model, those details will automatically be updated. At the top of the screen, you can see all of our CAD parameter mapping rules, and at the bottom of the screen, you can see the specifics for those rules. In the top pane, the way the rules are presented has changed. You can now see the description for each rule, which you can set as the administrator, the CAD environment that those rules apply to, the business unit if you've specified, the priority. The priority is the order in which these rules are checked, and we'll talk about this in more detail in a moment. We can see change note information for the part and for the drawing. We can see whether the rule is enabled, and we can see when the rule was created and who created it. This gives us much more visibility and information on the rules that are in your system. Another small change is all of the columns are sortable. So we can now sort by CAD environment, business unit, priority, and so on. If we look at one of our rules at the bottom of the screen, we can see the specific details for that rule. So we can see the attributes that are mapped to a part, the change note information that's mapped to the part, likewise for the drawing attributes and the drawing change notes, and we can see the business units that these apply to. The create, edit and delete functions can be found under the right click menu, and in this lower section, double clicking will launch the editor. Now in the editor we'll look at some of the changes that we've made here. First thing you'll see is we can now add a description to the rule. Because we've added more configuration to the parameter mapping, you need an easy way to identify the mappings you have set up. We can now select a single CAD environment or multiple CAD environments. If your business is a multi-CAD business and the rules are the same throughout, you can set these in a single rule. Then when changes are required, you only need to make a single change. The priority specifies the order these rules are checked by using the priority number. The way this works is these numbers are checked from the lowest value up. The system then checks if the rule matches the system, business unit, and if it's enabled. This allows you to configure your parameter mapping rules with more control. If you have multiple CAD systems and the same requirements, you can configure them in a single rule. Likewise with business units. If your requirements vary by business unit or CAD environment, you can set these up as separate rules. The part change note quantity and drawing change note quantity specify the number of revisions that are transferred to the CAD environment for use in your revision table. If you are up-issuing your drawings alongside your models, I would recommend setting your part change quantity to 0, reducing the amount of information that needs to be transferred to the CAD environment. But if you are up-issuing these separately, you can set both of them to meet your requirement. This offers more flexibility. Is enabled, as the name suggests, tells us whether this rule is currently active or not. This means that we don't lose the work that has been put into setting these rules up. We can just turn them on and off as required. And populate blank values. As before, when no value is set, you can now specify the character to take its place if required. Next we will look at business units. The parameter mapping can now be business unit specific. If you have different sets of requirements by business unit, you can specify which units this rule applies to. So here I've got this set to all business units, or I can set it to selected business units where I can select multiple units or single units. Now we'll look at the parts for CAD parameter mapping. Parts CAD parameter mapping is where we can add, edit and delete mapping, and these options can be found under the right-click menu. The table here shows us the currently mapped items and details associated. We can see the label, the DDM attribute name, the CAD parameter name, the direction, so these rules are all set to be mapped from DDM into the CAD environment. We can now specify whether these attributes are set for family members if you're using family tables or configurations. So again, we can reduce the amount of information that needs to be transferred. You can also see the format mode, any attribute description that's been applied, and the data type. If we look at adding an attribute now, this is the view we'll be presented with, and each of these green fields is an attribute that has already been mapped. In this table we can see the important information, the label or description, the DDM attribute name, whether it's a system attribute, and some formatting information as well. If we select an attribute to map, we can have a look at some of the options available. CAD parameter name is where we will specify what that attribute will be listed under in the CAD environment. The direction, this specifies which environment controls the attribute. So we can use DDM, the CAD environment, or we can have bidirectional. For this I'm going to select Design Data Manager because I want DDM to control the formatting for the attribute. Below this we have format mode. So here we can specify how that information is displayed, if you're always using uppercase, lowercase, so on. And we can also specify the max data length. So if you have a field, a description field for example, that allows for 250 characters in the DDM environment, but your drawing only allows for 20 characters, we can specify that here. And again, we can specify whether this attribute is to be applied to family members or not. We progress and look at part change notes. So here we can see the same layout and the same information. If we look at adding this time, what we can see is we only get attributes that are associated to revision changes. But the same rules apply, where we can specify the CAD parameter name, the direction of the mapping, format mode you want to apply, character limits, or whether it's set for family members. For drawings, it's the same as the parts, so we get the same table, the same information. And this time if we look at the options for add, this time we see drawing specific attributes. But again, we have the same options available. We can specify format mode and character length. Confirm that. Again, we have our change note information for drawings. So again, if we have a look, we only get revision related attributes. And we will confirm that. If we now go over to the CAD environment, we can see a part I have loaded in. If we have a look at the parameters, we can see some of those descriptions that we mapped before.